Hello everyone, this is Ted at DinoWritersWorld.com. Harness the power of the ultimate Dino Writers resource. Today I'm very excited to do a video review of the brand new Dino Writers Rulon Warriors Battle Pack, which basically came out of left field. It was announced in early October of 2020 with a release date of February 2021, and here we are in mid-January, and it's released a few weeks early. So very excited to show you this, and really didn't know much about it or have any information. And even after having it arrive, I don't really have a lot of info. So I figured I would do an in-depth review, deep dive. We'll go through the box. We'll go through all sides of it. I'll give you my observations. We'll talk about the inside, the contents, and the figures, and the dinosaurs, of course. But very excited. Hopefully this is a sign of things to come. Hopefully Mattel will do a full-blown relaunch. We don't know. We don't have any information on that. So hopefully this is just sort of a teaser to whet everyone's appetites. So, first, a few high-level observations just on the box itself. So the first thing you see, the first thing that jumps out at me is the box art. Very true to the original. Like other 80s toy lines, Dino Riders was very well known for having excellent box art. It really captured the essence of the toys and brought out the best in your imagination. And here, this doesn't disappoint. It looks very reminiscent of what I would call the Series 2 background battle scene that Ezra Tucker painted way back when. It even borrows some elements. So you see this Brontosaurus in the back, this volcano. Those were taken directly from the old picture, and then everything built around. Kind of has a whole anime vibe. Definitely not, exactly 100% true to the original Dino Riders line. Maybe more stylized, more futuristic weaponry, but very cool overall. And we'll explore the box art further. Maybe we get some hints as to what's to come. We have the Dino Riders logo. It's the same logo that they used originally, or at least one of them. This logo is a straight letters. It doesn't have the famous T-Rex triangle that you see. For reference, here's kind of one of the original boxes, the pterodactyl. So it's more of the straight logo, which is actually the same as this one. Harness the power of dinosaurs, which was the original tagline. Mattel has carried that over from the Tyco original. It's called the Rulon Warriors Battle Pack. I don't really know why it's called that, and I can't really figure it out because, as you can see, there's both the Dino Riders or Valorians, which are the good guys, and the Rulons, which are on the purple. They're the bad guys. So both are included. So it could just as easily have been called the Dino Riders or Battle Pack, but it's called Rulon Warriors for whatever reason. Very cool. That's the front of it. We'll get to the back and the sides. Actually, if you open the sides, it actually continues. So the pictures will continue, or at least the front picture. So you see kind of the full view of the battle scene. Very cool. There's another Triceratops up top, and again, we'll get into more detail. So that's kind of the front and the sides. The bottom, really nothing to see. Just kind of boilerplate, proof of purchase, some text, what it is. No real hints here. Made in China, of course, isn't everything. At the top, we have a picture of the contents and also kind of what's included, and we'll get into that. In the back, we have the battle scene, kind of a truncated version. Doesn't really have all of the side characters like the Triceratops that we just looked at, and it has a summary, very reminiscent of the original, where we have a battle scene in the back that kind of uses a cross sell for other toys in the line, and it describes kind of the synopsis of the line. It's a war of survival in 65 million BC, which is basically the same as it was when it was released in the late 80s. So that hasn't changed. It goes into the contents. you see the usual cast of characters: Krulos, Bytor, Cobras, Lad, Locust, Termite. There's a few typos here. So there's Tyrannosaurus Rex, which I've never seen it spelt that way. It's with an A instead of an O. But I guess I guess we'll forgive that. I'm not quite sure how that got past the editing room, but so be it. One thing that kind of jumps out at me, just looking at this, there is a reference here to, as you go through all the different characters, there's a reference here to Citro at the bottom. Now, Citro is a name that's not going to be familiar to Dino Riders fans because it wasn't an original figure in the toy line. It wasn't in the cartoons. It wasn't in the Marvel comics. So it's a completely new entity. And there's also, it's difficult to see, but there is a registered mark, meaning registered trademark after Citro, which means that Mattel must have trademarked this for some other purpose. So I'm assuming that this is a sign that this is more to come than just this battle pack, and that this Dino Riders set is a one-off. I think there's more to come. Citro's another character somewhere. We'll see. Maybe it's a Netflix release or something like that. And then there's also, one of the dinosaurs is called Saurolophus, which you may recall is a Series 2 toy from the original line. But pictured and included is actually a Parasaurolophus, which is a different dinosaur. At one point, it was supposed to be released by Tycho, but never actually produced. So a little bit of an error there in terms of being a dinosaur expert. I'm sure they'll get some flack for that. But as we go through the figures and stuff, we'll talk about that some more. And then just turning back to the front, roughly just in terms of the overall package size, it's one of the, if you're comparing it to the original line, it's basically the size of one of the smaller Dino Riders. So for reference, here was the original pterodactyl. So it's about the same, I would say the same width. It's a little bit taller, and about the same thickness. So that's what you're looking at. Another observation about the front of the box, and it wasn't really clear from the pictures that were on Entertainment Earth. You see there's sort of a flap, or what looks like a flap, which is very reminiscent of the original Dino Riders toys. Basically, you had the cover, which was just the battle scene. In that triangle with some information about the dinosaur and also kind of the actual toy itself. And then you would open up the flap to reveal the window to see the actual toy in the box, and then some information on the inside cover. This is actually not a real flap. It looks like it with the shading, and it's meant to mimic it, but it's actually one solid piece. Just for reference, if you look at one of the originals, so this is the pterodactyl, so this is the window box flap I'm talking about. So basically you have the triangle. When somebody would open it up, you'd get some info at the top and then a picture of the actual toy. So pretty cool. Obviously more expensive alternative than the straight box, but still pretty cool nonetheless. And at least they tried to mimic it. So I want to spend a minute or two just to take a little bit of a deeper dive in the actual battle scene, because I think it's really cool, and maybe it'll offer us some clues as to what's possibly to come. Overall, like I mentioned, it's very stylistic, has a kind of anime, cartoonish look to it. Very cool. Borrows some of the same elements from the original battle scene or the Series 2 battle scene, the volcano and the Brontosaurus in the back. You have your T-Rex, which is a staple made of the Dino Riders line. Krulos, commanding it, of course, as the leader of the Rulons. On the other side, you have the Brontosaurus or Diplodocus, whatever it is, with Questar as the leader of the Valorian/Dino Riders, with Mind's Eye, of course. Similar overall to the original toy in terms of the equipment and weapons, and same thing with T-Rex, you know, very similar overall with the brain box with the weapons on it. Very cool. You have the Triceratops in the middle with Hammerhead, you know, also has the common brain box that you see on the Rulons. Going out to the side, you have Deinonychus here and a couple more on the sides and one in the middle. These are actually Dino Riders versions. So what's interesting here, and I think, you know, one of the things that people were pointing out when this box was originally announced back in October, was that the Deinonychus for the Dino Riders have brain boxes, which is really not consistent with the original canon of Dino Riders. The whole idea of Dino Riders was that they were the peaceful side, and they would communicate with the dinosaurs through telepathy and their amp necklaces, whereas the Rulons, being evil and all, they would enslave the dinosaurs with mind control devices or brain boxes. So a little bit unusual that the Deinonychus for the Dino Riders would have a brain box on it. Maybe you could make the argument that it's just a helmet. It's a protective device, not so much a mind control device. And it looks pretty badass, so I'll go with that. But on the other hand, you have a Rulon here, which they're calling the Saurolophus, but it's really a Parasaurolophus. And that's a Rulon affiliation because that's a Locust character, one of the original characters from Dino Riders. There is no brain box whatsoever, so it's kind of inconsistent. It's not clear how it is that that dinosaur would be controlled by the Rulon if it wasn't being enslaved. But I suppose maybe like a horse, you could domesticate it, whether you're a good guy or a bad guy. So maybe that's the case there. Not really sure. Not really sure how those things got through to production. Maybe there's some storyline out there that we don't know about that will all make sense. Maybe there's a Netflix special coming out. That would be great. Over to the left, you have another Triceratops at the top, a couple Pteranodons, and again, more mountains. Pretty cool. Overall, very cool, very stylistic. You have infantrymen, you have the Sharkers, the Hammerheads, the Bugmen, which I like to call them, battling it out. You have what looks to be Gunner with a mortar firing it up, and pretty cool. Overall, very cool design. Again, I'm hoping this is some kind of, sign of things to come, but time will tell, I suppose. All right, so we're going to go ahead and open this bad boy up and see what's inside. All right, there you have it. So basically what you see is what you get. There, perhaps disappointingly, there is no written material, no cross-sell guides, no instructions, no what the hell is this? More to come, no teasers, unfortunately. I was really hoping that there would be some documentation in here to shed some light on Mattel's plans. But we're just left to speculate, and I'll do that at the end of the video. So pretty much here you see everything kind of packed in. There is a lot. And the first thing that kind of jumps out at me is how small these figures are. I mean, the pictures on Entertainment Earth, obviously they're close-ups. They look, they look a little bit bigger, but they're actually quite small. They're about 1 inch high. But very detailed nonetheless, and we'll take them out, and we'll start going through one by one. All right, so the moment of truth, the actual toys themselves. So here you see kind of the whole assortment out, and we'll go through each one pretty quickly. So let's start with T-Rex. All these are solid. Kind of a solid hard plastic, but a little bit of flexibility to them, so not completely rigid. Overall very cool, very stylized, very detailed. has kind of the, the traditional Rulon brain box with the two guns at the side. And a bit, a bit of a different design from the original. Doesn't really have, no claws in the front, no leg shields. Armor's a lot more streamlined, let's say. And then we have two places for the figures. So it comes with 4 Rulon figures that are kind of in a seated position, all different types. So this is the kind of Rasp or, Viper style. There's also a Hammerhead, Sharker style, and also, what I call the Bugmen, or, it's probably not really Antor so much as Locust, maybe, in that style. And then, of course, Krulos, the evil leader of the Rulons. So they sit kind of like this, and they actually fit pretty securely. They kind of just, it's kind of just pressure fitted. So this one has room for two riders. Pretty cool overall. On the Dino Rider side, we have, I'm guessing this is a Diplodocus as opposed to a Brontosaurus. It actually has, similar to the original Diplodocus, the 2 laser cannons on the side for the neck, and it has a pod on either side, also for figures. And then included in the pack are the 4 Dino Riders versions of the, the seated position riders. So this looks to be Mind's Eye. We have, I'm guessing this is Lad, but it's really hard to tell. There's no indication. This may be I'm guessing this is Questar, and then this would be, perhaps Youngstar or somebody like that. But again, there's really no name associated with each figure. It's just, there are a couple of names on the box, but it's not comprehensive. So these guys just kind of fit in here. Again, pressure fitted. So it fits pretty good. It's not coming out. Pretty cool overall. Not really a, not really like the original. Just maybe a generic representation of armor on a dinosaur, but pretty cool. And he's the longest of the bunch. And the next, we'll just go to Triceratops here. Again, another Rulon in the purple. I like this guy. He's pretty cool. Actually, very reminiscent of the original Dino Riders, or I should say, original line, with the satellite in the back, and has room for 1 rider. The original had room for 2. It was one of the larger dinosaurs, or at least a medium size. So we'll throw Hammerhead on him here. Pretty cool. Not really, not really much to it, but detailed nonetheless. All of these have a copyright on them. It just says 2020 Mattel, made in China, and then there's some numbering and some lettering. Can't really tell what that's supposed to represent. Just to switch to the Dino Rider side, we have the Deinonychus, again, a single rider. Here, as I mentioned, this one has a brain box. Not sure why, if it is actually a Dino Rider version. Only the Rulons had brain boxes in the original cartoon and the original toy line. But it's pretty cool nevertheless. I think it's a little bit too big for my taste. It's especially when compared to some of the others. The Triceratops, so it wouldn't have been this big, but it's still pretty cool. On the Rulon side, here is what they're calling the Saurolophus, which is really a Parasaurolophus given the head crest. Room for 1 rider. Again, glaring omission here is the lack of a brain box. It's not really clear why this would be considered a Rulon dinosaur, other than the fact that it's purple and it's pictured that way on the box. But pretty cool. And this is one, even though it's called the Saurolophus, which was released as part of the second series of the original line. This is a Parasaurolophus. It was never released in the line, although there were plans for it. So it's pretty cool that, you know, this is actually the first time this dinosaur ever appeared in the Dino Riders line. Next dinosaur and the last one is a Pteranodon, which has a rider, very, very similar to the original Lad figure or pterodactyl figure that came with Lad. And, you know, the mechanism, the gliding mechanism with the two rockets. This figure doesn't come off. It's actually attached as a solid piece. So it's pretty cool, though. It's pretty true to the original. Pretty big figure overall. And nice. So maybe this would be Lad, I suppose. It does say Lad on the box. And then some of the other figures we'll go through here. These are more of the traditional sort of army men in their stance. You have Locust, who's a Rulon, who has this scope, and he's in a, you know, firing position. Pretty neat. Small. They're about an inch overall. We have two hammerhead type figures with their lasers pointed. And then on the Dino Rider side, we have a figure that really kind of looks like Turret from the original line. And I'm not really sure, you know, there's really no Turret on the box. But I suppose this may be Quark from the original Series 1 release. But anyway, he has some type of communicator, which, again, it's a little bit odd. I'm sorry for this video being out of focus and all, but it's a little bit odd in the sense that the Dino Riders communicated with amps, which is basically necklaces, and they actually have necklaces on these. So it's a little odd that they would be communicating through, you know, a CB radio or something. But anyway, it's stylized. There's also what looks to be like a gunner figure pointing a rifle in action. And then maybe, I think, my favorite is another figure that looks very much like Gunner. He's in a seating position with a mortar, and it's actually the same thing that's depicted on the box. So pretty cool overall. I mean, you know, look, they're small. They're definitely detailed. They're definitely stylized. The weapons are not removable. It's all one solid piece pretty much, other than some of the figures being able to come off. You know, they're pretty much as they are. So just to give you a sense of the scale of the figures, like I mentioned, very small, about an inch tall. If you compare that to the original Dino Riders figures, you could see that these new ones are much smaller. So, you know, a big difference, but fits in with the relative size of the dinosaurs. So I guess it makes sense for this set. So again, much smaller. In terms of the actual dinosaurs themselves, also relatively small if you compare them to the original toys. So here's a Series 3 Chasmosaurus, and you could see, you know, much bigger the original is, rather. And even the larger Diplodocus is pretty small when compared to one of the originals. All right, so we've been through the review. We've done an in-depth review of the box. We've done an in-depth review of the toys. And, you know, I think I still have more questions maybe than answers, unfortunately. Like I said, there's no documentation in the box. There's really no indication of what's to come. So we can only speculate. And, you know, there are a lot of different theories out there on what this could be or what this could represent. One theory is Mattel just quickly put something out there to make the line relevant again, or just to preserve, you know, whatever rights they have with respect to the line, whether or not they want to rejuvenate it or not. And, you know, that's certainly a theory, and it would make some sense, although so much time has passed. I mean, the original line ended around 1990. So you're talking, you know, you're really talking 30 years of dormancy with this line, and not really, you know, nothing has happened in between. So, you know, to throw something out there just to keep it relevant, It seems, at least 15 years overdue for that. But it could be. I also think that if that were the motivation, or at least the primary motivation, I think you would have seen less of an effort with the set. So, obviously a lot of care has gone into the box art, which we went over, and even the figures themselves, even though they are unpainted. They're very detailed. They're small, but they're detailed, and they're stylized. It's not, it's brand new. It's not a rinse and repeat of the original Dino Riders. It's not a remake of, or a repurposing, as far as I could tell, of any of the Jurassic World dinosaurs that they're currently producing, which I also collect. Um, and I think it would have been a hell of a lot easier for Mattel to just grab any one of those dinosaurs. There's so many from the Jurassic World line that they're currently producing. Slap on some makeshift armor on it, call it a Dino Rider. I mean, if you're still selling it for $20, the people who are Dino Riders fans are going to buy it anyway. So there really was more thought into this. And, like I said, it's more stylized than, it's definitely a distinct style, anime or whatever you want to call it. So I think that must mean that there's something out there. They have plans for the future. Maybe it's a Netflix release, maybe it's a cartoon release or something, CGI, whatever it is. And we're going to see maybe more of that. And also, I talked about earlier, there's this reference to this character, Citro, on the box, which again was never an original Dino Riders character. So I don't know why you would put that on the box and just make up a random character that has nothing to do with Dino Riders, if it wasn't a real thing, if there wasn't something coming in the future. But then again, you have, Rulon dinosaurs with no brain boxes, and Dino Riders dinosaurs with brain boxes, and Tyrannosaurus Rex is misspelled. So, I don't know what to think exactly. But I'm certainly hopeful that this is the start of something bigger. And, if nothing else, maybe this was just a deal with Entertainment Earth to try to drum up interest, or, see what was out there. Throw some feelers out there. $20. Would people invest 20 to see, to see Dino Riders again? I mean, I know when it was announced, I ordered the full 5, so I got the full case. I mean, it's a no-brainer. I can't imagine, if you're a Dino Riders fan, this is a must-have. I'm sorry. Whether you like the figures or not, I mean, buy it for the box. I mean, for $20, I can't see you going wrong with that purchase. And also, the original Dino Riders, if you're a collector, they cost hundreds. So for 20 for a pretty complete set, it's pretty cool. But again, I don't really know, without any kind of documentation out there, it's hard to really say one way or the other. I hope it comes out. I hope this is a line. It would certainly be easy enough for Mattel to repurpose the Jurassic World dinosaurs, like I mentioned. They certainly have a lot of models, and it would be pretty easy. It's an easy sell. So we'll see. One of the other theories I have on this, and it's just pure speculation. I mean, I have no information or inside knowledge of any of this, but just looking at the overall style of the toys themselves, I mean, very small and detailed, no paint scheme, very reminiscent of the old muscle figures. And many collectors will know that the Super 7 toy company does various lines of new style muscle figures for their different properties. And so I'm just thinking that this looks right up Super 7's alley. I wouldn't be surprised at all if they had a hand in actually making some of these toys. Maybe going forward, Mattel would use them as a sort of way to release the Dino Riders line, a new line. They did it a few years ago with Matty Collector for the Masters of the Universe Classics, where basically Super 7 took over for Mattel. And I think they did a great job with it. You know, shout out to Brian Flynn and his team. You know, they seem to really be able to cater to the collector's market and the adult collector's market, and not just, you know, the kids. Mattel is a large corporation, public company. Obviously, their primary money-making opportunities are going to be with children, not the collectors. As much as us collectors like to think we're important, at the end of the day, it's really the children that are going to drive the revenue for a big corporation. And obviously, Mattel has a ton of different toy properties out there. They're working on Masters of the Universe Origins line, so that's in full swing for them. They also have the Jurassic World line. So a smaller, esoteric Dino Riders line, maybe it makes sense to farm it out, outsource it to a smaller toy company. They have a relationship with Super 7 in the past. I don't see, you know, why they wouldn't want to do that again if they didn't plan on, you know, doing it all internally at Mattel. And quite frankly, I think that would be a great thing for collectors because, like I said, Super 7 really knows the collector's market, and they would, I think, take the time to really appreciate the original line and make sure that any new toys are true to the original line. That's what collectors are really looking for. I mean, it doesn't have to be exactly, but it's got to be pretty close. And you know, you can't insult your audience, especially with collectors, right? So I think Brian and his team at Super 7 would do a good job at that. Again, I'm just speculating. I have no idea if they're involved at all. It would be great if they were, or will be in the future, but I suppose only time will tell. So that's just a theory. If I turn out to be right, you'll have heard it here first. In terms of my overall assessment, I have to say this is a definite buy. I mean, if you're a Dino Riders fan or a vintage toy collector, I just don't see how you can pass up on this at a $20 price point. I mean, just the value alone, again, you get 21 pieces. You could take exception with the fact that they're unpainted. You could take exception with the fact that some of the pieces aren't exactly 100% consistent with the canon of Dino Riders, the original line, and the weapons certainly look different. But it is a modern take. There's 21 pieces overall. You get a really cool box set, cool package that fits right in with the original toy line, and it, you know, it rivals some of that art, and I think it's pretty cool. If you have kids, you know, the kids would love them. I wouldn't recommend them for small children because some of the figures are very small. You know, I think the package says 6 and up, but in any event, you know, it will give you an excuse to play with these if you have little kids like I do. And they look like a lot of fun. I think they're very well detailed. They're very well done. It's a cool style. It's a cool take. And quite frankly, anything with Dino Riders on it, I'm a buyer. So hopefully there's enough interest in this that Mattel realizes that they have a good line on their hands, and they actually launch a full proper line. We'll see. So I guess the way to do that would be to try to support the line by going to Entertainment Earth. It's an Entertainment Earth exclusive, and picking up a set or two, or in my case, 5. I mean, it's pretty much a no-brainer for a Dino Riders fan as far as I'm concerned.